Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Beloit City Council. It is now 7 minutes after 7 o'clock on Monday, March 17th, 2014. Roll call, please.
Roll call shows all councilors present except for Councilor Lupke.
All right, item 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please stand? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 3, special orders of the day and announcements, 3A.
So Charter Communications has sent us a couple letters in the last few days, and they've also been in contact with all of their users, and they wanted to inform us that as of April 1st, their analog channels will be going away. So Beloit City Channels 96 and 98 will no longer be available. The government programs will still be available via Charter's digital channels 991 and 992, with council meetings being broadcast on channel 992. Just a public service announcement for us.
Okay, thank you. As a courtesy to our soon-to-be vacant Councilor Van de Bogart, he would like to acknowledge his family members, and I've agreed to go ahead and do that for him.
Thank you, President Haynes. Yes, this evening I'm pleased to acknowledge in the audience my wife, Nancy Johnson, her son, Kenneth Maker, and Mr. Busy, my grandson, Tristan Bryce Maker. And they're sitting right back there, and he came down just for this, and thank you very much for coming, and Charles, thank you very much.
No problem. All right, then. We now have public hearings. Item 4A.
A proposed zoning text amendment to create Section 5-202, Sub B, Sub 11 of the zoning ordinance, Chapter 19 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit relating to contractor offices and storage yards in the DH Development Holding District. The Plan Commission recommended approval, 5-0.
Madam Director.
The Development Holding District is a special purpose district that's intended to provide a suitable zoning classification for areas that are not yet suitable for urban or suburban intensity development because of lack of public facilities and services in the general area. There are currently 26 parcels zoned development holding, and they're primarily in agricultural use. The majority of them are either on the northwest side of town, kind of at the Newark Road, McKinley area, or else they're either in the Gateway Business Park or north of I-43 in that general area. They're just large parcels of land. The proposed ordinance would allow contractors' offices and storage yards as a conditional use in development holding. This thought was generated by a contractor who actually wants to buy land, zone development holding, on Newark Road. And when we looked at what would be allowable, this seemed to be the best way to kind of accommodate that use and to get the reuse of a site that's had issues. And so we proposed a zoning amendment. Councilor DeForest asked us to do a survey of how other communities treat contractors' offices and storage yards in these agricultural holding districts. Of the 12 communities that staff researched, 10 prohibit it, and the other 2 communities treat it as a conditional use in the agricultural holding districts, provided that vehicles and equipment are stored inside an enclosed building. Even though there's not a lot of communities that have done it, I mean, in the past, we look at what's best for our community. And we feel, planning staff still feels that this is a good move for Beloit, and we could allow some contractors and storage yards with the conditional use, with the conditions you need, whether it's screening, whether keeping storage inside. You can provide the conditions you want, and similar to like when we didn't feel U-Haul was appropriate, we denied it. So it gives the council the ability to really look at these on a case-by-case basis. Right now, the only other zoning classification where they're allowed is manufacturing. And some of those areas are in our existing neighborhoods. So I'm not sure, and then the rest are like in our business parks. So I don't know that those are any better area for contractors and storage yards. So We feel like this is the best kind of compromise to allow them, but at the same time, give council the discretion to kind of review them on a case-by-case basis. And kind of Plan Commission did support that and did recommend approval 5-0 at their last meeting.
Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing on item 4A. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak on item 4A, please approach the podium and state your name and address. Second call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4A. Third and final call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4A. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing on item 4A. Do we have a...
Move we suspend the rules and proceed to action on the merits, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules and a second by Councilor Levy. Councilor DeForest, did you wish to ask a question about suspending the rules?
I believe my question relates to my ability to vote on suspending the rules.
Okay.
That's okay. Ms. Christensen, I was wondering, because in reviewing the Plan Commission minutes from February 19th, one of the commissioners expressed concern. There wasn't very much information in the minutes about what his concerns were, and his concerns resulted in the Plan Commission laying over the item. Can I ask, Chuck, do you know what the concerns were, or Julie, do you know what the concerns were?
The concerns were just in allowing the contractors and storage yards and screening and providing the landscaping, and really protecting what could be adjacent property owners. So if you have an undeveloped piece of land, how do you protect it from what could be next door? And then they laid it over because they felt it was important to get the research done that you requested before they
Okay.
acted on it. So that's why the layover occurred.
Great.
And that commissioner wasn't at the meeting.
I saw
think
that.
it's, so he wasn't there to vote on it, so.
If I could ask a follow-up, are you feeling comfortable that the conditional use process allows us enough protection that we can, on a case-by-case basis, have the conditions in place that would protect the concerns that this commissioner raised?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything you wanted to add to? Okay.
And he also wanted a standard list of conditions that we would
I saw
have.
that.
And we felt that was impossible to do because the whole point would be to look at each site on
Case
an
by
individual basis. And we can, just like when we review outdoor seating areas with alcohol, we have a standard set that we use. So we will develop that and use it as appropriate, so you'll get similar conditions with each one. I don't think we're going to get a lot. I mean, we've received this one, but this wasn't something that has come up, the last 15 years I've been here. It's never come up before, so I don't anticipate we're going to have, 15 applications for it, but this would assist this one contractor who is looking at buying a piece of land that has been kind of had issues because it was once a kind of a trash recycling place, and it's on 11 acres, it's way back, you really can't see what's on the site, but from an air photo you can see there's tires, or there were tires, he said there are tires, and he would like to clean up that site and do a nice job. And I'm guessing other contractors who would come forward would do a similar thing. And we can require them to screen it, we can require them to keep any kind of vehicles inside garages, and we can, require landscaping. And so we can, you can as a council, require the conditions you feel are necessary to make it fit in and protect the future neighborhoods.
Okay, great. Thank you. That answers my concern.
Right,
Thank
good.
you.
Any other questions or comments on suspending the rules? All right then, I'll call the matter. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We suspended the rules by a vote of 6-0. Do we have a motion on the underlying matter?
Move approval.
Moved by Spreitzer,
I'll second.
second by DeForest. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Vice President.
Ms. Christensen, can you tell us which other two communities allow this?
I didn't do the research, so I don't actually know. Sorry. I mean, if you really want to know, I can send it to you tomorrow, but.
Sure, that's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the matter. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. Public hearing for item 4B.
A A resolution approving the vacation of excess South Turtle Town Hall Road right-of-way east of the intersection with Gateway Boulevard in the city of Beloit, Rock County, Wisconsin. The Plan Commission recommended approval 5-0.
And Mrs. Christensen.
The right-of-way included as part of this application is no longer needed following the realignment of this intersection, and would then, if approved, would be returned to the adjacent properties located at 9817 and 9949 South Turtle Town Hall Road. These properties were recently attached to the city of Beloit, and CCI has proposed the construction of a very attractive office building on the property and across the excess right-of-way. We did send this out to the review agents, and we also sent it to DOT. DOT officials noted that the proposed right-of-way to be vacated will not be needed for the I-39-90-43 interchange reconstruction. Alliant Energy noted the presence of utility poles and lines within the affected area, and they do not object to the vacation, provided that CCI is willing to pay for the relocation of those facilities. And Alliant and CCI are currently working on a relocation agreement. And AT&T and CCI are also evaluating potential conflicts with AT&T's facilities, but they will work through those processes, and or else they won't be able to put their building where they want to build it, where they want to do it. The other review agents did not have any comments or concerns. Plan Commission did review this at its last meeting and voted unanimously 5-0 to recommend approval of this vacation.
Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing on item 4B. All persons wishing to come forward and speak on item 4B, please approach the podium and state your name and address. Second call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4B. Third and final call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4B. Hearing none, and I'll close the public hearing on item 4B, and do we have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Moved by Spritzer,
Second.
second by Levy. Do you have any questions or comments on item 4B? Hearing none, I'll call the matter. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. Item 4C.
A proposed ordinance amending the zoning district map of the city of Beloit to change the zoning district classification of the properties located at 9817 and 9949 South Turtle Town Hall Road from temporary M1 Limited Manufacturing District to permanent M1 Limited Manufacturing District. The Plan Commission recommended approval 5-0.
Mrs. Christensen.
On December 2nd, 2013, the City Council adopted an ordinance attaching those two properties to the City of Beloit. Section 4 of that attachment ordinance assigned a temporary zoning district classification of M1 Limited Manufacturing District and directed the Plan Commission to initiate a permanent zoning district classification for the properties. This is the property owned by corporate contractors who is proposing the redevelopment involving the demolition of the vacant structures and the construction of a two-story office building. Plan Commission reviewed it and recommended unanimously to approve the zoning map amendment to permanent M1.
Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing on item 4C. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak on item 4C, please approach the podium and state your name and address. Second call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4C. Third and final call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4C. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing on item 4C. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by DeForest,
Second.
second by Spritzer. Any questions or comments?
Is that a motion to suspend the rules and offer a second reading?
Did I see I don't see on here that there is any
It's
discussion for.
It's an ordinance, so it does, if you want to take action on it tonight, it does need
Okay,
a second.
it wasn't,
Suspend the rules.
okay, because it wasn't showing it on the
I'll
sheet.
second that.
Okay. All right then, that sounds like a winner. Thank you for catching us on this. All right. Any questions or comments on suspending the rules then? All right then. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'll second that.
Okay. Moved by DeForest, second by Spritzer. Any questions or comments on the merits? All right then. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. All right, public hearing on item 4D.
A proposed ordinance amending the zoning district map of the city of Beloit to change the zoning district classification of the property located at 1000 Bluff Street from R1B Single Family Residential District to PLI Public Lands and Institutions District. The Plan Commission recommended approval 5-0.
We're getting your exercise today. Right.
This zoning request is from St. John's Lutheran Church, and they intend to continue to use it as a church, so that would be the primary use. But they're seeking the zoning to more accurately represent their secondary uses. Upon approval, they would begin leasing space to community organizations at the subject property. The comp plan does show single-family residential urban uses, but the text does identify that these public and institutional uses are considered appropriate for that land use recommendation. And we did send public notices out to the neighborhood, and we did hear from 2 residents, one prior to Plan Commission, one since. The one prior to Plan Commission supported this, supported the church's request. Since that meeting, we heard from a resident who believes that the secondary use will generate additional traffic and that it's not good for the neighborhood, and he would really like to see this whole area restored to residential, which is not likely given that it's a church. We're comfortable with the zoning, even with additional uses, because the streets are designed and parking is provided for these uses. Plan Commission did review this item on March 5th and voted unanimously 5-0 to recommend approval of the zoning map amendment. And this is an ordinance, and we would like you to suspend the rules, because I see that's not on the agenda, so I let you
Thank
know.
you.
So that we can just move this forward and go to approval.
Okay, thank you. All right, then. I'll open the public hearing on item 4D. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak on item 4D, please approach the podium and state your name and address.
My name is Bill Cunningham, 2601 Sarah Lane in Beloit. I'm a lawyer who represents St. John's in making this application. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. I do want to address the objection that was received after the Planning Commission hearing. The history of this property is pretty basic. The church started a school there in 1950 and operated its annex facility as a school up until 2 years ago, when it had to close the facility for financial reasons. There is a large parking lot that's immediately adjacent to the school, and it's fenced in. It's right on the property. It's more than adequate to handle any traffic. In order to defray the cost of the use of the facility, the church has gotten a lot of interest from other organizations who want to rent out the facility. In fact, the church has an opportunity to rent out the entire facility right now. I can't name the nonprofit in Beloit, but it's a well-known nonprofit that wants the entire old school building to use. I don't think this would generate excess traffic. There was a lot more traffic, as I recall, when this facility was operated as a school and before it had any parking, off-street parking. So I really don't see that as an issue. It would certainly maintain the integrity of the neighborhood. That church has been there since at least 1930, and the building itself has been, the school building has been there since 1950.
Thank you. Do we have any other individuals wishing to come forward and speak on item 4D? Second call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4D. Third and final call for persons to come forward and speak on item 4D. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing on item 4D. Do we have a motion?
Suspend the rules and go for action on the merits, Mr. President.
Motion by Van de Bogart. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Spreitzer. Do we have any questions or comments on suspending the rules? Hearing none, I'll call the matter. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We've suspended the rules by a vote of 6-0. Do we have a motion on the underlying matter?
Move approval. Second.
Moved by Spreitzer, second by Kincaid. you have any questions on the underlying matter? Hearing none, I'll call the matter. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. Item 5 is citizens' participation. We come to the point on the agenda for persons to come forward and speak to the council about items that may come before us in the future. We may not act on any specific requests tonight, but may refer you to staff for assistance. We ask that you refrain from personal attacks and keep your comments to under 3 minutes. Do we have any persons wishing to come forward under citizens' participation? Second call for persons to come forward and speak under item 5, citizens' participation. Third and final call for persons to come forward and speak under citizens' participation. Hearing none, I'll close citizens' participation and move on to the consent agenda, item 6. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda. Councilor DeForest, did you want something removed from the consent agenda?
Yes, please, I'd like to request item 6C, as in cat, be removed, please.
Okay. All right, any other councilors wish something removed from the consent agenda? All right then, consent agenda will consist of items 6A, 6B, and then 6D through 6H. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Levy,
Second?
second by Spreitzer. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. Item 6C, please.
An application to display public works of art on city-owned properties during Visit Beloit's 2014 tourism campaign. This is a referral to the Plan Commission.
Do you
Mr.
have
Christensen.
questions, or did you want me to explain
No,
what
I
it
don't want
was?
to have to do a whole report. Thanks, Julie. I wanted to just request that when it comes back to us, I would like a lot more detail about the doors and how they'll be displayed, especially because they're going to be in our parks. I would like a lot more detail about it, just to kind of give you the heads up before it comes back.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Councilor Levy?
Just a quick question with, to go along with that, Julie. We don't have an ordinance in place that prohibits this, do we?
No.
Okay.
Did you want to prohibit it?
Let's see how long, though. How much time do I have? No, I was just curious to see if we had an ordinance in place that we would have to take a look at that too. So I
Oh.
just want to make sure that when it does come back, we can continue to move forward and not get sent back or anything.
We'll probably visit Beloit, come and make a presentation so you can see what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish with this campaign. And we felt it was a nice positive event for the city, so we hope you do too. But it'll be back before you at your next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a motion to approve 6C?
Second.
Moved by DeForest, second by Levy. All in favor of 6C, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. Item 7A.
A proposed ordinance to establish no parking on Locust Street in front of 519 and 519 and a half Locust Street. The Traffic Review Committee recommended approval, 5-0.
Mr. Boyson.
A February 14th, 2014 request was made by Jodine Saunders, the Public Works Sustainability and Safety Supervisor, Coordinator, to remove the parking so that the trash could be picked up on a new enclosure at the Hackett School. The Traffic Review Committee reviewed the request during both their January 27th and also their February 24th meetings. The committee voted 5-0 in favor of establishing a no parking regulation that would extend between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. on school days in front of 519 and 519 and a half Locust Street. The Engineering Division also concurs and recommends this proposed action.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Moved by Levy,
Second?
second by Spreitzer. Councilor Van de Boga.
I was going to have a question, Mr. Boyson, on the merits. I got no problem with suspending the rules.
Oh, okay, so do you want to go ahead and do that after?
What does the landlords or landowner say there at 519 Locust?
My understanding is, it was reported to the Traffic Commission by the traffic engineer that he's spoken to the owner. I understand there's a duplex facility that's currently vacant. There's a large driveway with a rather long extension of driveway to a gravel area in the back. But he says that he anticipates that with a duplex and 2 units, he had a concern that if one person parked, and it also is a 2-car driveway, it looks rather wide, but he said it actually is split by the property line. So he did express concern that if one of the tenants parked on the driveway and blocked the access that's legally allowed without going around it on the adjacent property, even though the driveway is apparently continuous, that then he felt it would be desirable to have space on the street as opposed to prohibiting that space. And that was basically the gist of the discussion pondering that concern at that first meeting. So the Traffic Commission felt that by limiting the hours between the restricted hours on school days only, which would match the pickup days, that they thought that was a reasonable accommodation.
I have no idea who the owner is now, but 38 years ago, when I moved to town, Ed Bonebright of Clinton, Wisconsin owned the property, and I lived at 519.5 Locust Street, so I think I've waived any conflict, but I thought I'd ask on behalf of Ed. He was an okay landlord, so.
Counselor Spreitzer.
I was just wondering how the specific compromise time was arrived at, noting the letter from Jodine Saunders looking like the pickup options would either be 5 to 7 a.m. or 9 to 11 a.m. If there isn't a reason to shorten it to just have it be during the morning or have it not start till 8 or 8:30 so someone can park overnight and go to work. I'm just wondering if this is the compromise that makes the most sense for the pickup hours or if there was a reason to do it for the full school day.
Well, certainly the 5 to 7 was discussed, and saying, well, you might as well not allow the parking if you can't park overnight without having to move your car before 5 a.m. So then the other window that's anticipated by Jodine was the one that they would more likely want to try to accommodate. And it was just felt that was consistent with other restrictions in the area. Jodine had indicated she thought she could live with a tighter window and just make sure their schedules fit that window, but that was the feeling of the commission when they pondered it.
And was the landlord part of arriving at that compromise? Was that or did he still have concerns based on the 7:30 to 4:30?
Yeah, my impression is that he did not have an interest in any compromise, so he just didn't want parking restricted in any way would be his choice, and whatever might be needed to accommodate that would just be not his concern, of course.
Thank you.
Counselor DeForest.
Thank you. I share concerns too about parking constraints for the residents that live along the street. There's already quite limited parking because of the configuration of the street. And I would like to propose that we amend this to make the restriction from 9 to 11 a.m., which would certainly accommodate our need and still try to compromise with the landlord's concerns. So I would like to make that motion.
I would second that if it's appropriate, or later if it's appropriate later.
Sure, I think ultimately, I'd like to get the suspension of the rules out of the way before we attempt to amend the underlying matter. I think that's procedurally how I would like to handle this. Remember, keep your amendment in the queue. Do we have any questions or comments on suspending the rules at this moment? If we don't, I'd like to call the matter on suspending the rules. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We suspended the rules by a vote of 6-0. Do we have the base motion on the underlying matter?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Spreitzer.
I'll second.
Okay, second by DeForest, and you had an amendment.
Yes,
of
I would
yours.
like to amend to limit the restriction of no parking only between the hours of 9 a.m. and 11 a.m.
Second.
Question, Mr. President. You indicated that the safety individual could live with that?
Jodine indicated that she felt she could.
In her
The
letter.
commission discussion and the traffic engineer felt there might be more ability for people to be used to it and for police to enforce it, but I do believe that, given the discussion, that would meet Jodine's objective. If we ever missed the pickup, we just couldn't get in there, we'd have to work around it, which would be the case regardless of the hours if we had that situation. So.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the amendment? All right, all in favor of the forestated amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have amended the ordinance. Do we have a, well, shall we go ahead and move the, on the
I'll
merits?
move
then?
approval of the ordinance as it now stands.
It's been moved, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think we're.
been
I
moved
think
and seconded.
I think we're
We
good
just
to
need
go.
a vote.
We just,
Okay.
I think we're good to go now. Okay.
Good.
Okay, all right then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. Have our confused moment for the evening, actually our second one. All right. Item 7B.
It's been moved enough, yes.
A proposed ordinance to establish 4-hour parking time limit on West Grand Avenue between Cross Street and Third Street. The Traffic Review Committee recommended approval, 5-0.
All right, Mr. Boyson.
A request was made by Tom Ruckert, owner of the businesses located in the 161 to 173 West Grand Avenue area, to remove a pre-existing 1-hour parking time limit. There was discussion with the traffic engineer initially and concern that there might be long-term parking that went in. So as a result of that, then he told the traffic engineer he'd amend sort of verbally, maybe 3 hours. The traffic commission felt that a 4-hour period would be consistent with other areas in the downtown, so that was their feeling of what would be the best, to then have a 4-hour parking time limit in that West Grand Avenue between Cross Street and Third Street on both sides. And I believe that that would be satisfactory to the business owners, and in addition to avoid any concerns that the traffic commission identified when they evaluated potential for long-term parking of students or something else.
Okay. Do we have a motion to suspend the rules?
Second?
Moved by Kincaid, second by Spreitzer. Do we have any questions or comments on suspending the rules? Hearing none, all in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We suspended the rules by a vote of 6-0. Do we have any questions or comments on the underlying matter? Councilor Levy.
I'll direct this to City Manager Arf, and I think I asked you this once before. Larry, I know in the downtown area, it just seems as though that every time we're turning around, we're either increasing the parking time or decreasing the parking time, and sometimes it's in the same area. Is there, could we ever get to a point where we can just get a time and stick with it? Because what it seems as though is every time a new business goes in, if they want something different, we're flip-flopping, and I'm afraid that pretty soon we're going to start confusing the citizens and saying, what are we doing down here? You know, last week it was 2 hours, next week it's 4 hours, 2 years from now it's,
Well,
Yes.
there is no standard. This obviously is not done for any public purpose.
Right.
The parking time restrictions in downtown and in some of our other business districts are done as a convenience to the local businesses. And this and prior city councils have gone out of their way to try to accommodate whatever the current needs are for these businesses to help them be successful. And you're absolutely correct, it changes all the time. A few years ago, we had 1-hour parkings everywhere. We went to 2-hour as kind of the standard. A lot of those had to be lifted because 2 hours weren't enough. We used to have 12 hours, and then we went to unlimited in those spaces. And I can guarantee you this may change again. Somebody will come along, open a business in there in a few years, and if they can get the other businesses to go along, they may change it. And you know, the city doesn't have any strong feelings because this is being done strictly as a local accommodation.
okay.
Did that answer your question, Councilor Levy? Sort of.
There's no way to do that.
All right, Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. Well, I'm all in favor of being flexible to meet the downtown businesses' needs, and they do change as the tenants of those buildings change. So I'm comfortable with that. I wanted to make sure, because I was unclear, Mr. Boyson, so he originally requested removal. The committee agreed to institute 4-hour. Was the owner polled at that point to see if he was comfortable with that?
We're pretty confident he is, along with Counselor Levy's point, to avoid, the commission was thinking to avoid having to come every other meeting to change it. They were saying they've seen this before, where if you remove any hourly restriction, you then get long-term parking, and they, based on their past experience, felt that that would cause us to be back pretty soon if they
Yes.
did that. So they felt that both accommodated, and I think he originally said no restriction, then why don't you have restriction? 3 hours is fairly standard in some of the areas. And then the commission talked about, and they, well, he wanted none, that would be a problem. We'll make it 4, a little bit more like his initial feeling, so they believe that he was comfortable with 3, originally requested none, no restriction, so we believe it's pretty accommodating of his intent, and perhaps actually addresses the concern that he would have seen if he watched it progress with no restriction.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think no restriction is wise when you have a business there. You want to be able to rotate customers in and out. So you were able to determine that he was comfortable with 3 at that time, so we have a little bit of a gauge.
So by going to the 4, it
Okay.
sort of steps back from the negotiation that the traffic engineer was trying to protect him from the exposure of just permanent parking that would be not his customers at all, just parking before they open and tying up the spaces all day.
Okay, and we didn't hear any other concerns or input from
No.
any nearby, okay, businesses, thank you.
All right, then. We've suspended the rules, so we have an underlying, and we do have a motion in a second?
We do not have a motion in a second.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion in a second on this?
moved.
Moved
Second.
by Levy, second by Spreitzer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. And then we'll move on to item 7C.
A proposed ordinance to establish no parking on Chapin Street between College Street and 165 feet east of College Street. The Traffic Review Committee recommended approval 5-0.
Mr. Boyson.
A request was made by Jason Hughes on behalf of the Beloit College to remove the on-street parking along the south side of Chapin Street between College Street and the dimension of 165 feet east of College Street on the south side. The college is in the process of updating some signing in the parking lot on the south side of Chapin, and part of that request related to the signage was also to remove the parking along the south side of Chapin in that area, generally adjacent to 647 College Street. The Traffic Review Committee reviewed the request during their January 27th meeting. The committee voted 5-0 in favor of establishing the no parking requested regulation along Chapin on the south side in that area. And engineering also concurs with that recommendation.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Moved by Levy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Van der Bogaert and Counselor DeForest. Question on suspending rules.
Yes, thank you. This is why I'm always hesitant to just move to suspend the rules, because based on the answer to my questions, I don't know if I want to suspend the rules or not. Do you know the rationale for why the college is choosing to want to eliminate parking here?
I believe it has to do with visibility of a sign package that they're installing, is my understanding from the discussion.
I-
They're installing some signage, and they want to have a clear view of the signage from the street without the parking, is my understanding. It relates basically to the signing proposal that they're implementing in that area.
I guess I'm confused because parking continues to be challenging in this area, so I'm a bit confused. And I'm, looking at the area, I couldn't understand why they'd want to remove the parking there. Do you have some insight, Chuck?
Well,
Or someone? I don't-
okay. All right,
It looks like 7 or 8 spaces are
well,
being
he's not
taken
set
out.
up yet.
I'm sorry, is it enough?
Go ahead.
Well, the college, I know they've done a number of improvements over the past several years, I understand. It's their opinion that it would be most desirable for the college to have those spaces eliminated. There's some additional history, I don't know if we want to go into all of that, but apparently a number of years ago, there wasn't parking there. The college wanted to have terrace parking. Some of the neighbors across the street said at that time, I'm told, they did not want to have terrace parking. Then there was a compromise. The compromise was to not have it everywhere proposed, but only to have it in this particular area. So by the college now eliminating it, I don't know their whole thinking, but that would be acquiescing to some previously expressed preferences of some neighbors in the area. So I'm assuming that they believe that they have sufficient parking for their needs, and this would meet their signage objectives and other considerations.
Mr. City Manager, I have a question that, it's my understanding that most of those buildings on Chapin Street in that block are owned by the college?
Well, the buildings in this block and the property on both sides of the street in this area is all owned by the college. There are some private residences that are further, I guess it would be to the east on Chapin. And when the college proposed its new parking plan about 4 years ago, they were requesting some terrace parking, not on-street parking, but angle parking on the terrace along Chapin Street, and that was objected to by some of the neighbors that lived in the area. So the college abandoned that, went with the angle parking in the terrace on College Street only. Now they've come in and asked to take the parking off of this one block. Parking is tight in the area, but they believe that, again, the interest of the college would be best served at this point by removing it on this one block in front of their property.
Okay. All right, Councilor Spreitzer.
I just wanted to note for public disclosure that I work for Beloit College, but I don't have any conflict related to this, and I also have no insight to add to this discussion about the motivations.
Okay. Councilor Kincaid.
I just did a quick calculation. It looks like 7 or 8 spaces would be removed. Is that what you understand?
Yes, approximately that. There's a diagram in the packet, so I could probably try to actually count them, but
It's
I
just a
believe that's
black bar.
approximately correct.
It looks like 6 to 7.
Okay.
Okay. Councilor Van der Bogaert.
Many times our packet includes a listing or a notation of the property owners within a radius of this. I didn't see it in my packet. Do we know if the, other than college individuals that might be impacted on this were notified in the neighborhood?
My understanding is there's an ordinance that triggers notifications in some cases, but this would not fit under that criteria to require a notice for the
Right.
traffic committee review.
Councilor Levy.
But just a point of clarification, and I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, that we're looking at an area where parking, as Councilor DeForest has stated, and others, that is tight in that area anyway, so we want to remove parking for signs. I'm just asking for clarification.
That is my understanding, that it was in conjunction with a proposal for sign installations in that area, which I then assume is in part to accommodate better visibility of the signage, is my impression.
I'm confused. I mean, in that area, I think we've all said it over and over again, that it's so limited parking in that area now, or tight parking in that area now. I'm really hesitant of removing any parking in that area. I mean, especially if that's the only reason, so people can see a sign. I think if you park and you get out of your car, you're gonna see the sign anyway. That's just me. Maybe I'm missing something here.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not fully familiar with the objectives. I just knew it was associated and made in conjunction with a sign package submittal that was made to the city, and this was a part of that sign package submittal. So that's my impression based on what I've heard.
And maybe the city manager, let me ask this question then. I know the ordinance states that we don't have to notify people in that area to see how they feel about it, but is that something that we could do to talk to people to see how they feel about this, and maybe let people know this is why they want to remove the parking? I get nervous when we start removing parking, not only in this area, but in other areas. I just get nervous about that.
Well, this doesn't impact any of the residents. The parking is being removed is solely up on campus in front of the college's property. So this does not impact any of the private residents that live further to the east on Chapin. So they're not involved, and that's why they wouldn't have been notified. This is request that came in from the college. It's unfortunate someone didn't come tonight. I'm sure this was all talked about at traffic review, and I don't think they anticipated an extensive dialogue about it this evening. Often they put out no parking signs. I know it gets congested up there when there's parking on both sides, and they also have a parking lot that you can see up on the map just to the east of where this zone would be, and trying to get in and out of there is a little problematic when the cars are parked right up to the edge of the parking lot entrance. So I don't know what to tell counselors at this point. This was requested by the property owner. If for some reason you want to hold it up.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. If it's
Do
not
that.
time
I don't
sensitive,
know
can
that-
we just, I guess I would like to see what they presented to traffic review, just for a little bit more information.
Okay. Well, I think it's unfortunate they didn't have somebody here tonight. They probably could have answered your questions right off the cuff, but
I think I'd like to point out, put in a little bit of 2 cents worth. When the college came forward and asked, they actually asked to put in angled parking in that terrace. And that specific terrace, a couple of years ago, they came before the Landmarks Commission. And the neighbors came out in droves that they didn't want parking on this block. And as a compromise, we just simply left the status quo.
Right.
So I think that given how strong the opposition was in the College Park neighborhood for angled parking along Chapin, because they believed that the terminating vista was being harmed by the parking, that I think that would, that seems to be from the opposition we faced 2 years ago when this came up. I believe that you wouldn't find opposition on the part of the residents. Again, they were always worried about the terminating vista, looking down Chapin at the college, that the cars were a hindrance. And that may be what the college is thinking. Just so that I give you some background, because I don't really care about this one way or the other, but I do know that the residents opposed angled parking on Chapin Street as it was. So. Councilor DeForest?
Thank you. Yes, I am aware that the residents opposed the angled parking on the terrace, but I'm not familiar enough with the residents' concerns about being able to park along this block. We do have some residents that do live on this block. Even though the proposed no parking area is immediately in front of the college property, there are other residents in this block, and I think in fairness to them, we should give them the opportunity to let us know if they have concerns about this. So I would request that we, in fact, do not suspend the rules, that we lay this matter over so we can try to obtain more information.
Okay.
If I could add, I do, as a matter of opinion, I do think we need to balance the needs and concerns of the college with the residents that live in the neighborhood. So I would ask again that we take that into consideration.
Councilor Spreitzer?
I was just going to suggest that with all the questions that I can't see any harm in letting this go 2 weeks and getting the answers.
I'm in agreement.
Perhaps what we could do is contact the original rep of the college, and it may well be that he has other insights into the neighborhood opinions, and it may be that the input that Charles is describing, and perhaps even more recent ones, but if it seems like there's any question, we could then perhaps look into sort of surveying the area. I could imagine us doing that, so if that, unless he's got a lot of information, he might be able to bring it to the
Well,
next
I
meeting.
think I would, at this moment, why don't we just cut to the chase? I mean, I think, let's go ahead and vote on whether we're going to suspend the rules. If not, then I think staff knows what we're wanting to accomplish here.
Well,
And-
Mr. President, I don't think we have any trouble holding this over for 2 weeks, bringing in a rep from the college. I just wanted to clarify that the college does own virtually all of this property on the block. They own everything on the north side of the street, all the way back to the next intersecting street. I'm not sure about this one house east of that parking lot. Is that privately owned?
No, it is a college-owned house. However, it is rented by the college to some of the faculty.
Okay. And but I think under the circumstances, I would recommend you hold this over. This is not an earth-shattering event here, and whatever they're doing isn't going to be finished in the next couple of weeks. So let's bring in the college rep at our next meeting and let them answer all your questions.
All right, then, I'll call the matter. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. All opposed?
Nay.
All right, we've rejected suspending the rules by a vote of 0 to 6. And do we have a motion to lay this over?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Levy and second by Counselor DeForest. All in favor of layover, say aye.
Aye.
We've laid this over to the next meeting. All right, then. Thank you, Mr. Boyson. Item 8 is appointments. We do have a couple of today. I, Charles M. Haynes, duly elected President of the Beloit City Council, subject to confirmation by the Beloit City Council, does hereby appoint the following citizen members to vacancies and terms indicated below. Said appointments being pursuant to nominations made by and approved by the Appointment Review Committee at the regular scheduled meeting on March 10th, 2014. The appointments are to the Board of Review, Craig T. Daxam, 2206 Winchester Drive, as a regular member, replacing Howard Nash for a term ending December 31st, 2016. And to the Parks and Recreation Conservation Advisory Commission, Jeff Johnson of 804 Milwaukee Road, replacing Mike Ramsden for a term expiring September 30th, 2016. Do we have a motion to approve the appointments?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Van de Bogart, second by Levy. All in favor of approving the appointment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. I'd like to announce the following vacancies. Appointment Review Committee, 2 vacancies for residents. Board of Appeals, 2 vacancies alternate for residents. Board of Ethics, 1 vacancy for former city councilor, 3 vacancy for residents. Board of Review, 2 vacancy alternate for residents. Community Development Authority, 2 vacancies for residents. Municipal Golf Committee, 1 vacancy for youth and 1 vacancy for resident. Plan Commission, 4 vacancies for residents. Police and Fire Commission has 1 vacancy for resident. Traffic Review Committee has 1 vacancy for resident. Especially in Plan Commission, these are unprecedented vacancies. I do recommend that anyone with an interest in their city government, it is important, especially on plan, that we do get these vacancies rectified as soon as possible. I would advise that interested members, even if I have to twist some arms to show up and apply to participate on these important commissions, please contact the city manager's office or the city clerk. Thank you. Item 9 is Councilor's activities and upcoming events. Start with Councilor DeForest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to share the events I was able to attend recently in our community. I thoroughly enjoyed the Beloit Historical Society fundraiser and was grateful to attend along with, I saw my colleagues, Chuck Kincaid there and Dave Lukey, and it was great to support the Historical Society. I also was pleased to be able to be at the Latino Community Fair at McNeil Middle School and enjoyed meeting and talking with residents there. Book Quest that was held at Aldridge School that same day was wonderful to attend, to see so many of our fantastic students there, and being recognized for their success academically and for their dedication to reading, and thankful to the Beloit Public Library for helping to sponsor that event, and the School District of Beloit. And I know we have 1 Book Quest participant in the audience today, so congratulations on being there. I'd also like to offer my condolences to the family of Reverend Donald Moss of New Zion Baptist Church, who passed away. My condolences to his family and to the congregation for that loss. Thank you.
Councilor Van de Bogart.
Thank you, Mr. President. A number of things I was able to attend and looking forward to going to in the future. First, last Tuesday, the Chamber of Commerce dinner. I saw Councilor Spreitzer there. There may have been others, but I may not have seen them, but I did see him there. I was also able to attend the retirement lunch for Dan Thompson. Mr. Thompson has been the executive director of the Wisconsin League of Municipalities, and he's retiring at the end of this month. A dinner, or lunch rather, was held for him in Madison last Thursday, and our city manager, who is the current president of the League of Municipalities, was the master of ceremonies, and he did a fine job handling, getting us in and out in 2 hours, and it was just a very nice affair for Mr. Thompson. Excuse me, I also had a little fun over the weekend, and I would highly recommend, if any of you are interested in high school musicals, the Beloit Memorial High School is presenting Curtains as their spring musical, and it is 2 hours of tremendous entertainment. I can't say I followed the entire play, but I did note at the end, when I counted up the number of students who had been acting and singing and dancing on the stage, there was about 30 of them. And when you look at the costumes, the set changes, the pit orchestra, there were probably hundreds of young people, high schoolers, involved in this production. And you could simply see the synapses burning in their brains as they learned positive behavior and positive working toward accomplishing a goal. It was very, very impressive. Today I was able to volunteer with the Welty Maple Sugar event held out at Big Hills Park. I had a chance to interact with third graders from Todd's school and teach them a little bit about how to make maple sugar. Wednesday, I'll be participating with the Meals on Wheels group at noontime, delivering meals along with, I think, some of my fellow counselors and perhaps with City Manager Arft. Next week, I'll attend the Forward Janesville dinner on the 26th. I'll attend the Mushing for Meals on the 29th here in town for the race and walk for the Meals on Wheels. And then on the 5th of April, I'll be participating in a mock fair housing hearing here in the forum so that our counselors and commissioners who are in that area get some idea of how to participate in that. So that's what I'm up to, Mr. President. Thank you.
Make sure your list is a little longer the next time. You've only got one more crack at it.
I want to go out with a bang here. I'm setting the bar high here, you know?
All right, Councilor Kincaid.
I'll be joining Mr. Vandy Bogart on Wednesday, and I'm not sure whether I'll cook or deliver, but I'm ready.
I hope it's delivered.
We should ask Sandy.
You're going to deliver.
What she thinks.
All right. Councilor Levy.
I am not getting in this conversation. I have nothing.
Councilor Spreitzer.
Well, I also enjoyed attending the Latino Community Fair and the Book Quest program 2 Saturdays ago. I did go to the Chamber of Commerce dinner. It was a great time, a great speaker, and I had a chance to meet our new chamber director and schedule coffee with him later to talk a little bit more about his plans for the chamber. I participated in a focus group with the Visit Beloit looking at how we sell our community and what our assets are. It was a great mix of people from around the community and a great time discussing what makes Beloit so positive. I this past week had a chance to do the third grader maple sugar tours that Councilor Vanda Bogart was mentioning, and on the 29th, that was with students from Gaston, and then on the 29th I'll be helping out again out at Big Hill Park with the Maple Sugar Fest, helping to serve French toast. It's a great family occasion from 9 to noon, so come on out and have some French toast with real maple syrup with the Welty Environmental Center. And then I will also be helping out with the Meals on Wheels. I'll be doing it on Thursday instead of Wednesday because I've got another meeting on Wednesday, but look forward to doing that and helping to support that great program in our community.
Thank you. All right. I this week had great personal sacrifice. Had to traipse out to Washington to National League of Cities conference. Some very good information was disseminated, and then the city manager and I went to meet with our congressional delegations. We met with senior staffers from both of our senators' offices. That was very, very well received. And we had a personal meeting with Congressman Pocan discussing items of relevance to the city with respect to federal affairs, especially the highway reconstruction and casino project and various other things that touch on federal items. So that's all I have today. And so we'll move on to city manager's presentation, which there isn't none. Is none. So we're going to be moving forward to 11A.
A resolution authorizing the city manager of the city of Beloit to submit applications to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for the 2014 through 2018 Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP, award cycle.
Mr. Boyson.
This is a resolution that involves two projects for the TAP grant applications. One of the projects is the Milwaukee Road bike path and lighting, and the other is the project that we're partnering with the College of Beloit that would provide for Riverside path construction around the powerhouse, where they are currently developing other improvements with the powerhouse. And so as part of that, this would be a TAP application that would be it seems to strongly fit the criteria. There was an earlier process which involved a preliminary submittal. So a preliminary pre-grant application submittal was made, and both of these two projects were selected as being of significant merit that would warrant the additional effort and development of application materials to do a complete grant application. I would just mention that Joe Stadelman, who is the architect for the Beloit College, is here today, and he could perhaps answer any questions if there were any related to the Beloit Colleges. They're the lead, sort of the lead agency. We would be the lead agency for, of course, the Milwaukee Avenue project, which has been a project that's been developing for a long time in the city with other roadway corridor improvements. And the college was the original conceiver of this improvement as part of their powerhouse development projects. And this is a component of that project that fit the criteria for the grants and seems to be receiving at least initial good reception in their pre-application. So in accordance with city procedures, we're requesting that the city council approve this resolution, which would authorize the city managers to submit the formal application in a few weeks to meet the grant submittal deadlines for these two projects. There's two other resolutions that are drafted in accordance with the formats of the TAP grant application procedure. So these other two wouldn't meet our city requirement for the authorization to make a submittal, but they fit the particular format of the city council's concurrence and support of these projects. So that's why there's three that are somewhat similar resolutions coming up, two to meet the grant submittal applications formats, and then the one conform with our city code authorization provisions for grant applications.
Okay. All right, thank you. Handle all these votes separately. Item 11A, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Van de Bogart,
Second.
second by Spreitzer. Do we have any questions or comments? Councilor DeForest.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I'm trying to make sure I've sorted out which resolution addresses which aspect of the project. Sorry about that.
This first one is related to the authorization to submit the grant application for both projects. That's what this first item on the agenda, item 11A.
Okay, and so I guess this might be a general question then related, I'm not sure when else to ask it, so excuse me if I'm not asking it in the appropriate A, B, or C. So it looks like we would be responsible for 20% of the cost, is that correct?
Yes,
The
the
city of
grant would be
Beloit
for 80% of the total costs having to do with both of the projects. And in the case of the Milwaukee Avenue project, it is a city project that then would leave 20% for city funding. Of course, we've pursued this project, and some thinking looks at us paying 100% if we could afford it, so certainly an 80% grant is highly attractive. The discussions with the College of Beloit would also, of course, if successful, would be an 80% grant program. And I understand that some discussions that would have to come back to the city council for detailed item approval would have to do with a cooperative agreement between the city and the college. There's some discussion of the city and college perhaps splitting the local share, but that's yet to be refined.
Okay, that was going to be my question. So they will be coming back to us
Yes,
to
that would have to be
negotiate
part
that?
of-
Because I think
Yes.
out of fairness, they should be paying a portion of that matching fund.
That would definitely be a,
The arrangement that's been discussed is for the city and the college to split the local costs, be about $250,000 apiece. And then the balance would be paid out of the grant. So we would split the local cost for the college-related project along Riverside, the Riverside Bike Trail, and of course, the Milwaukee project is 100% city, so we would pay the 20% local.
All right, that seems fair. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments on item 11A? Hearing none, I'll call the matter. All in favor of approving item 11A, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. Item 11B, we've already received the staff presentation on that one. Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Van de Bogart, second by Kincaid. Any questions or comments specifically on this one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. Item 11C, do we have a motion to approve? Moved by DeForest.
Second.
Second by Kincaid. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-0. Item 11D.
A resolution providing for the sale of $1,135,000 of general obligation promissory notes, Series 2014A.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President and councilors. Actually, the balance of the items on your agenda for this evening, items D through I, all pertain to the general obligation financing that will cover the cost for a good portion of the capital improvements that were included in the 2014 budget. This one happens to be for the promissory notes in the amount of $1,135,000. That covers those shorter duration projects like equipment purchases and would be for a period of 10 years. The balance of the resolutions, E through I, cover general obligation bonds, which would be for a term of 20 years and would cover longer duration projects. For that portion of the CIP that would be covered with the general obligation bonds, the amount issued would equal $2,394,262. And as you can see, there are a series of resolutions there because of the way the state statute is structured. We have to break out each individual project, and then down at the bottom, Resolution I, you have one aggregate resolution for the $8.4 million. The balance of this bond issue, and as you recall from the budget preparation process, we had about $3.5 million of GO debt capacity available this year for infrastructure improvements. That's considerably below most prior year programs, and it has to do with a reduction in our debt capacity due to mostly related to the falling equalized assessed value numbers for the city. So we have to size or adjust our capital spending plan to fit our available debt capacity, and we've done that the last couple of years, and we discussed a little bit earlier under agenda review, we'll do the same thing again for the 15 program. As we do each year, when we get to the point of beginning to prepare for the bond issue, we contacted Ellers. Mike Harrigan is here tonight, and he's going to come up in a minute and take you through a number of papers and explain the issue, what the impact will be on the tax rate, tax levy, how it will affect the city's overall general obligation debt picture. I did want to mention, though, before Mike came up, that when they were analyzing the city's existing debt, they also noted a 2007 issue that had not previously been refunded. It meets the criteria, and the reason we're asking for $8.4 million this year, despite the fact that our budget included about $3.5, was almost $6 million in refunding bonds based on the refunding and advance refunding of that 2007 issue. And as you'll hear in a moment, the savings there exceeds city policy for doing a refunding. So we have an opportunity there to save some money. At the same time, we're issuing the notes and bonds we need to cover the cost for the 2014 capital projects included in this year's budget. With that, by way of some introductory overview, I want to introduce Mike Harrigan, who's here this evening from Ellers. As you know, Mike is out almost every year when it's time to do our bond issue, and he's going to walk council through some of the work papers that they've prepared explaining the issue and what its impact will be on the city. Michael?
Thank you very much, Larry, and council members and president. Thank you for a chance to be here to explain this financing plan to you this evening. We had previously distributed an analysis of this, and I'd like to just highlight some of that so that you have an opportunity to ask any additional questions you might like to about the plan. First, let me say that this plan was developed within the context that we've been preparing for several years for the city. We looked at the structuring of this new proposed debt to be structured in such a way that it would provide for a compatible impact with your tax rate and your property tax levy, and also to provide the flexibility of being able to take on additional obligations in the next 4 years, because you're looking at a 5-year capital improvement plan. Obviously, you're not making the decisions on those subsequent years tonight, but in our document, we have accommodated and have identified the impact of this borrowing within the context of not only the existing debt, but also future borrowings. Within this document, I would refer you to the page 5, which details the purposes of the issue. City Manager Arft has done a great job of outlining what this is. Essentially, the two issues, the $1,135,000 note issue is a 10-year obligation, so you'd be paying that back within the 10-year period, and with that money, you're financing equipment predominantly. Under the Wisconsin statutes, you can't use bonds, you have to use notes to do that type of financing. The other issue is an $8,410,000 issue, of which over $6 million of it is for refinancing for savings, that 2007 issue. The remaining $2,395,000 is for a combination of road improvements, some property acquisition for code enforcement, and some park improvements. I would ask you to take a look at page 6 of the document. We have identified for you on that page what the savings is projected to be for the refinancing portion of this issue. And so what we're showing you here is that we're replacing that 07 issue, which has interest rates that range from 4 to 4.25%, with new money to refinance that would range from 0.55 to 2.7%. The difference in interest cost annually is expected to be approximately $22,000 on average. That adds up to a total of $200,000 of savings in future dollars. We do a calculation to help you understand what that's worth in today's money, and that's $156,000 in present value, and it's equal to 2.8%, or a little over 2.8% of the principal being refunded. And whenever you get to 2%, your policy says that you would want to take a look at this, so we brought it to your attention. Is it me? I know I'm glowing, but it can't be just that. Well, I'm going to continue. Hopefully everybody can hear me through the static. But the next page really reflects the impacts of your tax on your tax rate. This tax rate that's shown for the existing debt is shown on the left side of the page. It ranges from where you are today at $3.98 a thousand, and declines from there. With the new issue, as you can see on the far right side of the page, we have extended the $3.98 to an additional year so that you're not increasing the tax rate. Your actual levy is approximately the same at about $4,635,000, actually about $1,000 less than where you were this past year. And so from the standpoint of it working out within your existing plan, I think that it works from the standpoint of your levy and tax rate quite well. I'm just showing you the structure of the bond issue on the next page so that you can see that we're not stretching out the payments on the refinancing. That's going to be financed so that you're paying it off within the same time frame. So page 8 just shows you the split between the new money and the refunding on the bond part of the issue. And then we do show on page 9 how this would fit in with your longer range plan. Page 9 is the same as the earlier long sheet, and it shows us the impact on tax rate of existing debt on the far left, all of the proposed issues through 2018, should you choose to do those, and you, of course, make separate decisions on that each year as you go forward. The offsetting revenues gives us our net levy amount. We divide that by the tax base, and by the way, we're using a very conservative projection on your tax base growth. We're assuming no growth, zero growth for tax base for the next 2 years, and then ratcheting it up from there. With that, this would show that you would continue to be able to keep your tax rate at its current level or below for the next several years, even with that relatively conservative projection of tax base growth. The other thing that Manager Arf made reference to is your debt burden and your use of debt capacity. On pages 10 and 11, we have projected what your use of your debt capacity is. And by the way, in Wisconsin, local municipalities are allowed to issue a principal amount of debt up to an amount equal to 5% of their total equalized tax base. You have adopted your own policy of wanting to stay below that number and try to keep it at or about 3.7%. You are slightly above that number only because of the fact that your tax base has dropped somewhat, and the city has made strong efforts through its manager and finance officers to manage to your policy. And what this document is showing us is that with the borrowing, you'd be at about 3.87%. That would drop under 3.5% next year without any additional borrowing. But if we look at the next page, page 11, this is the same thing again with the future borrowings all the way to 2018. We do show that you would be within 1/10% of your policy by 2015, and then you would be under your policy in future years after that if the plan works out as projected. From an interest rate perspective, again, the borrowing here would be done through the competitive sale of your bonds. So if you approve these resolutions tonight, our next step is going to be to prepare your official statement, go out and solicit competitive bids from all the underwriters across the country for the right to buy the bonds. We would bring this back to you at your meeting on the 21st of April. The last page shows what interest rates have done in the municipal market over the past year. As you can see, it's been quite a ride. It's been up and down, and we're currently seeing some downticking for the last several weeks, with one bump up this past week, but still at about the average for the year. The current forecasts are for relative stability over the course of the next month. We're not seeing any things on the horizon that would project any volatile change in the current interest rate environment. So we hope that will hold for your refinancing. With that, Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
All right. Any questions or comments from councilors? Councilor Van de Bogart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Harrigan, looking at that last page of what current bond rates are at, you talked about refinancing our 2007 debt, and it ranges from around 4%. How do we generate the 2% savings if the rates are essentially almost the same?
Well, what this chart represents is the interest rate on the 20-year maturity, which is the highest maturity. Now, when you issue debt,
It's lower down.
you're ranging up to this high amount. This is just an index to show what the high number is.
All right.
So our numbers are going to be an average of this at a lower level than where these are. But this is really just to give you a feel for where the overall market has gone.
I may have asked this in years past, but is this a proprietary computer program that Ellers has to itself, or is this something generally that you can buy off the shelf where among your clients it tickles it at a certain level and you look into it further?
Are you referring to the interest rate
Well,
projection?
the
or-
calculation, how do you come to know that the 2007 is at this rate, and now we have this? Does a computer tell you that, or do you have an analyst tell you that, or how do you come up with that?
Both. Yes, we have a computer program that is considered to be the hallmark of the industry for purposes of running these kinds of calculations. It's referred to as the popular name of it is Munix, M-U-N-I-X, and it can be purchased. It's not unique proprietary to us, but other underwriting firms and bond municipal advisors have access to that and can run these. But it's still necessary to go through and look at every issue that a client has. And so our role as your advisor is to monitor and provide surveillance on all of your outstanding debt constantly as the markets change. And that's what we try to do. And so we bring this as part of our service back to you whenever we become aware that one of the issues would fall within your policy guidelines.
You've been here a number of years with this good news, and sooner or later, we're going to run out of it, I understand. But I'd like to take a moment to disclose that I did see Mr. Harrigan last week at this dinner for Dan Thompson. In fact, I sat at a table with he and another representative of Ellers, along with a number of other people. But I'd like to compliment you, Mr. Harrigan, and your organization. In my 10 years on the council, I've gone from knowing very, very little about municipal finance to knowing just very little. But I've had the opportunity to a number of years attend your municipal finance seminar at the Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells. And I would commend to my fellow counselors and to incoming Counselor Kelly, if you can, go to these, or a couple of these sessions. They're very informative, and they break it down to understandable levels for elected officials such as ourselves, and it is very useful. And I want to commend you and your organization. You've done a fine job as near as I can tell, and you personally have been very responsive to questions, and I've learned a great deal, and I want to just compliment you publicly. So,
Well, thank you,
You're welcome.
Council Member Vanda Bogart. Appreciate it, and certainly a pleasure to work with you as well.
Any other questions or comments from councilors?
If not, Mr. President, I think,
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. President, I believe that concludes the presentation on each of those resolutions. Of course, council will have to vote each one
Roll call.
separately. Does that also require the individual votes? You have to do a roll call
on all of the
those.
bonds. I'll do one on the note as well, just for sake of consistency.
Yeah, I believe all of them, including the note, require a roll call vote. I just wanted to mention that before we started.
Right. I was primed for that tonight. All right then. Okay, hearing that, do we have a motion to approve on item 11D?
Move approval. Second.
Moved by Vanda Bogart, second by Councilor Levy. Take a roll call vote, and let me get your turn back on, so, there we go.
Counselor DeForest?
Aye.
Kincaid?
Aye.
Spreitzer?
Aye.
Haynes?
Aye.
Levy?
Aye.
Vanda Bogart?
Aye.
Item 11E is the initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $1,990,000 for street improvement projects.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Moved by Levy,
Second.
second by Kincaid. Take a roll-
Counselor DeForest?
Aye.
Counselor Kincaid?
Aye.
Counselor Spreitzer?
Aye.
Counselor Haynes?
Aye.
Counselor Levy?
Aye.
Counselor Vanda Bogart? Item 11F is the initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $210,000 for community development projects.
Do we have a moved by Kincaid,
Second.
second by Spreitzer?
Counselor DeForest?
Aye.
Counselor Kincaid?
Aye.
Counselor Spreitzer?
Aye.
Counselor Haynes?
Aye.
Counselor Levy?
Aye.
Counselor Vanda Bogart?
Aye.
That carries 6-0, and the first two also carried 6-0. Moving on to item 11G, the initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $245,000 for parks and public grounds projects.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Levy,
Second?
second by Spritzer.
Counselor DeForest?
Aye.
Counselor Kincaid? Counselor Spritzer?
Aye.
Counselor Haynes?
Aye.
Counselor Levy?
Aye.
Counselor Van de Bogaert?
Aye.
The motion carries 6-0. Item 11H, an initial resolution authorizing not to exceed $5,965,000 in general obligation refunding bonds.
Move approval.
Moved by Spritzer,
A second.
second by DeForest.
Counselor DeForest?
Aye.
Counselor Kincaid?
Aye.
Counselor Spritzer?
Aye.
Counselor Haynes?
Aye.
Counselor Levy?
Aye.
Counselor Van de Bogaert?
Yes.
Item 11I, or that carries 6-0. Item 11I is a resolution directing publication of notice to electors relating to bond issues and providing for the sale of not to exceed $8,410,000 of general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2014B.
Moved by Van de Bogaert, second by Kincaid.
DeForest?
Aye.
Kincaid?
Aye.
Spritzer?
Aye.
Haynes?
Aye.
Levy?
Aye.
Van de Bogaert? The motion carries 6-0.
All right then. Item 12. Do we have a motion to approve or to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Spritzer. Is this going to die for a lack of second? Come on.
I always second.
Okay, all right. Okay, Councilor DeForest. All right, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
What was that one? 5 yeses and 1 aye?
Something like that.